That time of the week again. We're with our favorite friend, Rachel Baribeau. We're going to talk a little football, and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm always nervous when I talk to you. I think it's because I'm just nervous in general. But this week, Civil War week, has me really fired up. And I'm looking at airplane tickets and things, but I'm a little too scared to go for it. So if we could just start off, talk a little, we can talk a little Auburn leaped Oregon in the polls. We can talk the Iron Bowl, which you're at, or some Civil War. I'm going to kind of let you run with the football action.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a couple of weeks since the last time we talked, maybe a week or so, and what an Iron Bowl
Yeah.
that was. And I think that most of the world, they were watching, Ryan, and it's never held more true. My saying, sometimes you don't want to be right, but sometimes you are. Football is really a game of swiftly changing momentum. And, I always say that. And I don't like to be right? I don't like to be right sometimes. It's not always where you sit around and go, I'm so right. But then that game, if you don't believe in the power of short for momentum, you're crazy, because things started to swing in Auburn's favor at the end of the second, and really so much in the end of the second quarter, and then really in the second half. But what I also think that Auburn did, and they have to have credit, I think, give credit where credit is due, is they really out-adjusted to Alabama. Their adjustments were more on time, more pertinent, more timely, and they were able to win the ball game. They started to do some things, move their defensive linemen around to create disruption and confusion along the offensive line. It really was a hard-fought game right there in the trenches. But, in the end, Auburn was very comfortable playing from behind. And much like a team that and well, the Oregon Ducks, they don't mind if they get down. It's not an issue. Just like we've seen with the Oregon Ducks, with Stanford, and also, with Arizona and also Cal. They don't mind. They don't have any worries about being able to turn it on, about being able to get it going. The rest of the world might be, biting their fingernails, and the fans might be freaking out. But the team, just like we talked about last week, the team practices at that tempo. They learn to play football through practice, through a game at that tempo. And so they really do believe in themselves, and they don't get down on themselves when they have to come from behind. So Auburn's very comfortable in doing that, and Oregon is very comfortable in doing that. And what I think will be interesting is if Oregon's able to survive the Civil War, and also Auburn's able to survive the SEC championship. It looks like those two will be matching up, and wow, it's going to be an interesting matchup. And not to mention two defenses that have really come along as well, right? I've got lots of info on these defenses. Yeah, 31 takeaways on this season, Rye. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I think they've had 28 sacks in 11 games. So you tell me.
You gotta like
I mean,
that.
all of the focus has been on their offense, and their defense has flown under the radar, and that's okay. And guess what? Same with Auburn. When Auburn needed that defense to step up, they stepped up.
Yeah, because people were worried about that being the Achilles heel going into the Iron Bowl. Huh?
Look, in the first half, it looked like it was. It did. It looked like this Alabama team, people were going, what in the world? Why have they not played like this all season? This is just amazing. And then again, it goes back to the adjustments. What happens in that locker room, and what the coaches decide to do when they have a breather, just a couple of moments away from the game and not, a regulation timeout, what they do there is absolutely critical. And that's where you really, you separate the men from the boys. I hate to put it that way, but it's the truth. And Auburn, on that day, the Auburn coaches deserve all the kudos in the world.
I was wondering if, like, people watching the Ducks play and they see towards the middle end of the third quarter, fourth quarter, teams start to get run out of gas and the Ducks start taking over. I was wondering if Auburn's playing the same type of football where an opponent, making adjustments or not, just can't quite get their wind under them again.
Absolutely. I noticed that when I was looking through my binoculars at the game the other day, and it was so funny on my Twitter account. If you follow me at Rachel Baribeau, you would have seen a tweet that said, "Dear Santa, I want a big pair of shiny new binoculars," but I was using the ones that I currently have, and I looked down there and I saw that. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Again, they're comfortable, just like Oregon is in that second half. They're comfortable coming from behind, and they run such a fast-paced, fast tempo style offense that defenses can't help but be gassed a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. The what happens after a layoff? I mean, if both teams win out, right, which hopefully is the case with my little duckies, Beavers, they're pesky. It's not a big deal. Um, then do they practice it? I don't even know how that works. They practice every day and keep the same tempo going, or are these teams going to be slower when they match up again?
Well, they still have to follow under NCAA guidelines. I think it's like, 17 hours a week. I think it's something like that. So, they still have to follow under those guidelines. They won't be in school for part of the time. There is a really long layoff. I mean, I'm, qualified to talk about this because I covered the Crimson Tide. I covered the Crimson Tide, and I covered them last year when they were on their national championship run. So, absolutely, there is a layoff, and what you worry in that time is getting rusty, becoming complacent, getting out of shape, going home. You worry about your players getting in trouble. That's where your medal really comes in as a coach. And, the onus is on the coach, but these players really have to have a winner mentality, a leader mentality, a mature mentality to say, look, I'm going to go home, make the right decisions. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to stay in shape. I'm going to give it my all because, yeah, that layoff there can be really dangerous. But that's, again, where a good team, where you come out in the football team or football, national championship potentially, that's going to separate the men from the boys. And look, if you can't get up for a national championship game, you need to go home, son. I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get up and be amped up for a national championship game. I don't know that I've seen many teams too flat. They've been out there trying their best for sure. No, I was there. We were in the press box, and all of a sudden, Son of a Preacher Man comes on, and that wasn't that bad. Then Take the Money and Run came
Yeah,
on, and
yeah.
then all of a sudden, dollar bills started to rain down from the upper deck, and they weren't real dollar bills. And upon further inspection, they had a picture of Cam Newton on them. So yeah, again, I talked to somebody this morning about this on a radio show. I feel like at a homecoming, bonfire tailgate that would have had its place, but it's not really classy. I think it's a dig, and I think it's disrespectful. And he's been cleared, by the NCAA today. He's eligible to play. Now, I think it's a known fact, and I think it's a known fact to everybody, included in the NCAA investigation, that his father did try to solicit money in a pay-for-play scheme. But apparently, Cam did not know about that at this point, and I'm not willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
So, right now, I'm going to stand behind the man until there's evidence that he knew something. But no, I think that it was in poor taste. I really
Yeah.
do. And apparently, Alabama thought so as well because the guy lost his job. How those wins were taken from him, Ryan. And, on his grave, he'll have 411. And he said, on my grave, they can't say what I put on my grave. They can say what goes down in the history books, but they can't say what I put on my grave. And, I asked him point blank because, everybody talks about, do they, that he and Joe Pa are in a race, and they were in a race to see who could win the most. And I thought maybe, I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. I want to hear what it really means to him. And I asked him, he said, shoot, yeah. You kidding me? I wanted to win. I wanted that record. And I thought that was great. He was really candid. But he ended the interview by telling me that he was very, he was upset at what happened. He wasn't happy with what happened with the president there and how he was forced out, and he wanted one more year. But he said, you can't do anything about it. All he can do is move forward. So now he's going around the country and speaking, talking about becoming better human beings, becoming better citizens. He's got a new book with Mark Schlabach called Called to Coach, and he's just a phenomenal human being. And he embraced me when we left the interview and said to me, if there's anything I can ever do for you, and to have somebody like Coach Bobby Bowden say that to you, it'll just floor you. And I had to not let him know that I was tearing up, and he hugged me again and he said, no, I'm serious, Rachel. You just let me know if there's anything I can ever do for you, call on your behalf. And I'll tell you, I walked a little bit taller that day. I was a very proud woman. And now what's even neater, Rye, as we talk, I'm waiting to speak with him again. And also, when I get off with you, I will be interviewing Coach Stallings, because Coach Stallings and Coach Bowden will be coaching across the field from each other in a very unique game. It's called the Connect to Home Bowl. It's going to be played in an undisclosed location in the Persian Gulf, and it's going to involve our U.S. military soldiers. That is just so awesome.
That is so
And
awesome.
so cool. And what's even cooler, Rye, is it's going to be played. The highlights will be shown at halftime of the Fiesta When I get off the phone with you, I get to sit down with Coach Stallings and say, Coach, did you ever think you'd coach again?
Yeah.
And how satisfying is this? How different will it be, to coach a soldier versus a conditioned football player, even though they're probably even more conditioned in some senses. And will you approach it any differently because it's a flag football game? I'm giving you away the entire interview, but as you can tell, I'm super excited, love what I do, and just I think that this is a class act that Tostitos is doing in collaboration with the USO. I think it's phenomenal and just neat. I feel really neat and really blessed and fortunate to be a part of it just by reporting on it and spreading the good word. George Brand's branding tip of the week. I mean,
let's do it.
Hey, what a segue. I took it from these two coaches, and that is very short, very sweet, very simple. To stay relevant, to stay on the cutting edge, to stay pertinent. Whatever it is that you do, make sure that you do it well. Hone your skills, sharpen your skills, evaluate yourself. As a broadcaster, I have to watch my tape, listen to my tape on the radio, and evaluate myself. And whatever it is that you do, you need to stay sharp, stay focused, evaluate yourself so that you can get better, and then stay relevant. If you have a website, keep hits on that website. Keep blogging. If you have a Twitter account that's associated, don't let it go dormant. If you're building a brand and you go away, you got to understand that your audience is sleeping or going away too. They're going to tune into somebody else. So whatever it is that you are good at or you represent, you bring something to the table, make sure you stay relevant. And that also goes back to, a lot of the things we talked about, being persistent, staying in people's faces, offering your services. If you get turned down for something, writing a wonderful email or letter to the person that you got passed over and saying, hey, I'm always here if anything changes. I really appreciate the opportunity to have interviewed with you. I know more people, I've heard of more people, I should say, that have gotten jobs because the first person did not work out, Ryan. And what happened was they wrote an email or a letter or placed a phone call to the person who did not hire them and thanked them for the opportunity. And it didn't work out with the first person, and that person called them and hired them.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. I love the relevancy, keeping timely, and the simpleness of keeping a brand, speaking your voice. That was perfect. That was hot.
Yeah, keep it going. Yeah. I mean, and anything you do, if you go away, see ya.
Bye-bye, right?
You're going to be forgotten. Bye-bye now.
I got to tell some of my clients that. Yeah. Get on with it, dude. What are you guys doing? Awesome. Well, that's perfect. Thank you again. Have fun talking to Coach Stallings.
Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
You got it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.